Hello everyone, today I'm here to do another author specific video. So what these videos are I take one particular author and I talk about all of their books. I tell you what their books are about, when they were released, and then at the end I rank them from my least favorite working up to my favorite. So like I said, I've done a whole slew of these before. I've done one of these on Taylor Jenkins Reid, Morgan Matson, Leon Moriarty, Casey West. I've done a lot of them. So I'll leave the playlist down below. But today we're talking about Riley Sager. So Riley Sager has published 5 books, and I thought, 5 is kind of the start of when I could do these. And I thought it's the perfect time to do it because it's kind of spooky season, and he's a mystery thriller writer, so a lot of people read a lot of mystery thrillers around the season. So I thought, hey, it's high time to do it. So let's talk all about Riley Sager's books. So like I said, I'm going to begin with all of his books, starting with his first published, moving up to his most recently published, and tell you what they are about. And then lastly, I'm going to rank them. The first book we have that he ever released is Final Girls, which released in 2017. So this was his first book, and it's all about final girls, and final girls are kind of the last girls standing at the end of the horror movie. There's always usually one. And so basically we have a group of girls where they are all final girls and things happen to them in their lives. And we follow one girl in particular. Her name is Quincy, and 10 years ago this big traumatic thing happened with her friends in the woods, and she was the last one standing. And she's doing okay. So, 10 years ago this big thing happened to her, and she's dealing with it a lot with Xanax and also just trying to cope with things. And that is until the first final girl is found brutally murdered in her apartment, and she's like, oh goodness. And then the second final girl, Sam, shows up at Quincy's doorstep like, hey, somebody's after us, like, this is a lot. And so it's kind of all about that. It's about their dealings with how they came to be final girls, how they're coping with having such a traumatic thing happen to them and how they're dealing with it, and also learning about Sam's like final girl moment 10 years ago of what really happened. Is it really like she remembered, or is there something deeper going involved with it? So if you're a big fan of like horror movies and the whole take on the final girl trope, it's a great one to read, and I definitely think it was a strong book to start off with your whole publishing career, honestly. Then in 2018, we have The Last Time I Lied. This book is all about a camp setting. So we have a camp called Camp Nightingale, and it was going really good. It was great, and this big murder happened one summer that kind of really made the camp fall apart, obviously, because that would do it. And so we follow a character named Emma, and Emma was the only girl left kind of standing in this big murder that happened actually in her cabin. And all the other girls that she bunked with are now dead. And so it's been years later, and the owner of Camp Nightingale reaches out to Emma, and she's like, hey, we're going to reopen, and obviously there's going to be some bad publicity that comes from this, but it would be really awesome if you could come to Camp Nightingale, look around, maybe even be like a camp counselor. And so she's very hesitant because she's like, I put this all behind me, but then she's like, I want to know what happened to those girls. Like, what really happened? So she goes under like the guise of actually going to be like a counselor and stuff, but she's really trying to investigate exactly what happened to all of these girls. So it's an interesting one. It's got the camp setting, so I'd say it's great to read in summer. Not right now probably, but if you want to do it right now, go for it. But like I said, it's all about these girls and how Emma thought that she knew them, but maybe she didn't, and what exactly happened to them. Then in 2019, we have Lock Every Door. So this is about a character named Jules who is really hard up for a job. Like, it's not going well for her. And then she hears about this job to be an apartment sitter at this really kind of old, illustrious like apartment building that's like really awesome. And basically she just gets paid to like just live in the apartment while the people that are currently living there like are gone. But there's a lot of particular rules in this apartment, like no visitors, no night spent away from the apartment, no disturbing the other residents, all of whom are rich or famous or both. Like the rules go on and on. Like she can't leave. Like it's really, it's a lot. And so Jules is like, it's fine. I'm getting paid to do this. It's a great gig. And then she gets to learn about one of the other apartment sitters that's also living in this apartment, and things are kind of going awry, and apartment sitters are kind of going missing, like they're never heard from again. And especially the one that she talks to goes missing. She's like, what is going on? And so you really get to learn the dynamics of this apartment, of like how the residents are and how rich they are and how they're keeping secrets and maybe some scary dark things, and it's very, very interesting. And then in 2020, we have Home Before Dark. This is about a character named Maggie who, her and her family lived in this place called Bainbury Hall when she was really young, and it's kind of like this old mansion. And they spent like 2 weeks there, and then like one night in the middle of the night, they just left the house running because some scary things happened. And so her dad made like a living out of it. He wrote this book called House of Horrors where it talks about their time in Bainbury Hall, and it becomes an immediate hit. And Maggie's never believed that this house was haunted. She's like, he just did it to make money, things like that. And years go by and her dad sadly passes away, but he leaves her the keys to Bainbury Hall. And Maggie now as an adult is like, you know what? I'm gonna redo it, maybe resell it, but also I'm gonna try to figure out what happened in this place. Like, I don't believe it's haunted, but my parents did, or did they? She goes to Bainbury Hall to figure out exactly what happened so many years ago that she can't really even remember. So it's definitely got kind of like a Haunting of Hill House vibe to it for sure. And a perfect time to read it because it's definitely a spooky setting in a haunted house. And then we have his latest release coming out in 2021, which is Survive the Night. And this book we follow a character named Charlie. And this book is also set in the 90s, I should say. That's probably important to say. And she is kind of fleeing her college. She wants to go home and she needs like a ride. So she puts her notice up on the ride board at college, and she meets this guy named Josh who's like, hey, I'll give you a ride back to, I think she's going to Ohio, but we have to leave like in the middle of the night. And she's like, okay, which I'm like, that's a big red flag. But anyway, she goes because she's really trying to escape college because the murder of her best friend happened there, her college roommate. And not only that, but there's a killer going around her college, and she's just like, I gotta go. And so this book takes place in one night, and it's kind of broken up into different hours as well. And basically Charlie learns more about Josh, if he's really the guy that he says he is, or if he could be the killer, the campus killer, in fact, that everyone's been warning her about. And so it's all about Charlie dealing with her grief, her guilt of her best friend dying, also while simultaneously being like, am I in a car with the killer? And like I said, it takes place during one night, hence the title called Survive the Night. So there you have every single Riley Sager book. Like I said, he's written 5 books, and I really enjoy his writing. I get excited every time I hear a new book of his is coming out because I do generally enjoy them. I enjoy his writing. I enjoy the twist for the most part. There's only a couple of his that I'm not the biggest fan of, but overall, I really enjoy them. He's definitely one of my favorite mystery thriller writers for sure. So now let's get on to the hard part, the ranking of them, the least favorite to the favorites. If you've been on my channel for a while, you will for sure know what my favorite is. Maybe you won't know my least favorite though. So yeah, starting out at number 5, we have Lock Every Door. So the premise of this book is so cool about the apartment sitters and how things are going. I think what deterred me from this book was the ending. The ending was good, but it was so similar to a show I was watching. And I don't want to spoil it because I don't want to spoil the ending nor the show. And I was like, how could that possibly be? These two really obscure plot twist be the same exact thing in a book and a show. I was like, that's just so, I think maybe that probably deterred me. Now, if I would have maybe not been watching the show or not knew anything about the plot, I would have probably liked this more, but it is what it is. It is my least favorite Riley Sager book, which isn't saying bad at all. I didn't give it like a 2 or anything. I gave it like a 3.5. It's a solid 1. It's got the creepy apartment setting. It's got like these people going missing and maybe a cult happening. You're just like, what the heck is going on? And the ending will definitely throw you for a twist. That's for sure. I think a lot of people really enjoy it. And honestly, this is a lot of people's favorite Riley Sager book. They love this book. So as always, I say with my videos and my opinions on books, take my advice or my opinions with a grain of salt. Everyone's tastes are different. That's awesome. But as it goes, as for ranking, it is one of my least favorite books of his. Then we have Every Time I Lied. So I also enjoyed the setting. There's not been a Riley Sager book where I have not enjoyed the setting. He does settings so perfectly well. But I think what deterred me from this one were the characters. They were kind of like the mean girls of camp. And I couldn't really get on board with it. I didn't enjoy it. But the ending, all of Riley Sager's endings are good. I enjoy them. I see some twists coming and sometimes I don't see them coming at all. But this one just wasn't my favorite out of his, but it's still a solid one. And we have his latest one, Survive the Night. So this one I did actually really enjoy. It's right in the middle of the pack. I like the fact that it was told in the 90s because I'm a 90s kid. I can represent that. I could feel that. But I also really enjoyed how unreliable of a narrator Charlie was, because she was dealing with so much grief and trauma, what happened to her best friend, that sometimes she thought she would hallucinate things, and you as a reader were like, crap, is this real? Is this not real? Like, I don't know what to do. But I did really enjoy it. I love the fact that it was told all in one night. You had also not only an unreliable narrator, but an unreliable like person that you're in a car with, that you're like, is this a killer or not? That's a lot at stake right there. But I really enjoyed it. The ending, again, was great. It kind of took a little bit of an odd turn, but I did enjoy the multiple plot twists that it had. One I saw for sure coming, and some other ones I did not see coming, but I still really enjoyed it and would definitely recommend it if you're a big mystery thriller fan. Then for my second favorite, we have Final Girls. It was my first Riley Sager book because it was the first book I ever published. I enjoyed it. I didn't really know much about the final girl trope, of how that was a thing. And after reading this, I was like, wow, that is really interesting to read about a book that's all about final girls and how they survived like this kind of mass murder or mass thing that's happened to them, and how it's affected them years after. Because you don't ever get to see that really with horror movies especially. Then again, I don't know, I don't watch horror movies, of how they've coped with handling this big thing that's happened to them so many years later. Like, how can you cope? And so it was really interesting. The ending, the plot twist in this one were also really good. I thought it was a really good first book. Sometimes with authors, you know, sometimes their first books are hit or misses, but I really enjoyed it. And, you know, I don't know if this is a lot of people's like, I don't think it would be as high on a lot of people's ranking as it is on mine. I just remember really loving it. Of course, that leads me to my favorite out of all of them, Home Before Dark. Who's surprised? This is actually one of my favorite mystery thrillers in general. I love it. And it's my favorite Riley Sager book, hands down. So I love the whole haunted house aspect. You'll never catch me at a haunted house, but I'll read about it. And I also loved how it was kind of like a Haunting on Hill House kind of vibe. I just really enjoyed that. And I don't know, and the ending too. The ending was so good of how he played it out and how it came to be. I really, really loved it. But I think why this is my favorite is the setting, number one, the haunted house, of her trying to figure out this mystery. Also, you get snippets of her dad's actual book, House of Horrors, in this book, which is like, it's really cool. So I think this probably is a lot of people's favorite because it definitely took BookTube by storm last year, with good reason. It's a perfect book to read right now because, goodness me, haunted house, spooky season, Halloween, do it. But I loved it. It's definitely, I don't know what Riley Sager book could top this, but I just love the setting, the atmosphere. Like I said, the man can write some good settings when it comes to thriller books, and I'm here for it. So this is definitely my favorite. Would highly recommend it, and honestly, would recommend all of them. You know, I think The Last Time I Lied is great to read in summer, and then you have other ones that are kind of perfect to read like near kind of fallish time, honestly. But any of his books I would recommend. He's definitely one of my favorite mystery thriller writers that I will read any book he comes out with. I'm there. But I would love to know, what is your ranking of Riley Sager books? Which is your least favorite, working up to your favorite? Also, if you've never read a Riley Sager book, did this video maybe persuade you into reading one particular book or maybe all of them? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. And yeah, as always, leave me different authors you want to see author-specific videos on in the future, because I have a list going and I'm trying to touch them slowly but surely. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.